Hello ladies and gentlemen. So I told you that I would do a solution video for you. Sorry it took a little bit of time to get this done and get it posted for you, but I'm seriously hoping that you make use of it this evening and that you mark your stuff because I want it back tomorrow, and that you have a chance to see how these need to be done for full marks. So let's start off with the first one that I gave you. It was 1 over x plus 2 plus 1 over x minus 2 equals 1. So that was the question. At least I believe that's the question. Let's see for a minute. Yep, that was the question. And I have two different versions depending on the class that we're in. Okay, so the first thing, now we talked about this. This requires us to get it into this form if we're going to use clearing the fractions. And that's basically what we want to do. So the problem with that is that we do not have a single fraction on the left-hand side. So we need to get a single fraction. So what we're going to do is we're going to get a common denominator. You can do x plus 2, x minus 2. We're going to take 1, x minus, and all of this should be very straightforward given our first unit of the course. This is what we did. And so now you're going to get 2. Now be careful here. I did walk around. I saw some people making a mistake here. So it's x minus 2 plus x plus 2 over top of x plus 2, x minus 2 equals 1. That's then going to give you 2x over x plus 2, x minus 2 equals 1. I'm now going to do the cross multiplying that we were talking about. So if we think about this as being over top of 1, and then if we cross multiply, what we end up with is 2x equals 1 times x plus 2 and x minus 2. That's going to give us 2x equals x squared plus 2x minus 4. Make sure you do that. And you're going to get 2x equals x squared minus 4. Remember, the whole purpose of doing all this is to get ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. That's why we're doing all of this. And it makes your life very easy if a is greater than 0. It can be done if it's not. It's just not very fun. So I'm going to make the x squared stay positive. I'm going to move the 2x over to the other side, and it's going to join with the 2x. So what happened was I picked this guy up and I moved him over here and I put him in between the two of them. Now, if I say that 0 equals x squared minus 2x minus 4, that's pretty much the same as saying x squared minus 2x minus 4 equals 0. So in other words, if I can read it this way, I should be able to read it that way. And that's all I've done there. I've rearranged it. Now, so let's just stop for a minute because we're about a third of the way down the question. This is the algebra. That's the algebra part of the question. So looking up here, where am I going to give marks for the algebra? Well, I'm going to give marks for the lowest common denominator, and I'm going to give marks for getting that top down to 2. I'm going to give marks for cross multiplying, and I'm going to give marks for finally getting this down to equaling 0. And now, does it have to equal 0 with the 0 on the right hand, or could it equal 0 with this? Like either one of these is fine for this mark. So we're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4 marks so far, and we're only about a third of the way through this question. Now, it's possible that you'll get something wrong in there, and as long as you continue it through properly with the wrong numbers, I can still see giving you some part marks. So pay attention to that. Make sure that you're aware. If you're really having a problem with it, come see me at lunch tomorrow and we'll fix it up together. So now what do we have to do? We have a question. We either factor this or we're going to use the quadratic formula, right? And so we got to figure that out. So I've got two numbers that multiply to give -4 and sum to give -2. Well, 4 only divides by 1 and by 2, and they're not going to give me what I need. So off I go to the quadratic formula. Now, the good thing about my class is I'm not going to give you the quadratic formula ever, but the good news is that if you write the quadratic formula, you get a mark. So even if you put the numbers in wrong, if you've written the quadratic formula out correctly, I'm happy to give you 1 mark for knowing the quadratic formula. Seems fair to me. So let's put the numbers in where they go. So it's going to be x equals 2. No, not negative 2, because it's a negative 2 here and a negative b here. So those two negatives give me a positive 2. And it's going to be plus or minus 4. Minus 4 times 1 times negative 4 square rooted all over top of 2 times 1, which is 2. So now, we're going to do this, and we're going to do 4 plus 16 over 2, and we're going to get 2 plus or minus 20 over 2. So this whole thing in here, I think, is worth 2 marks. And it's worth a mark for getting it down to the 20, and you get 1 mark if you've got the formula. So there's your 2 marks. All in there is worth 2 marks, getting all the way down to this guy. Okay, so you get 1 for starting here, you get 1 for getting all the way down there, and that's good for me. Now, the rest of the marks are for putting it in grade 11 form. Now, grade 11 form says it has to be in fully simplified lowest mixed form. So that means we got to do 2 plus or minus 2 root 2. No, that was wrong. 2 root 5 over top of 2. And so there's a mark for that. I like that. I'm good for that. Then we should common factor out of 2. And we should reduce. And I'm good with that for a mark as well. So your answer is plus or minus 1 root 5. So what are we looking at? We're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 marks for the first question. Now, again, listen, if you got different numbers here, if you didn't get here, you can still get part marks down here as long as you've done the quadratic formula right, you've put it in properly for your numbers, I'll give you marks for that, and you simplified properly for your numbers. I'll give you full marks for that, not a problem. Okay, let's go on to the next one. The next one is 4x, bracket x plus 3 plus 5 equals 0. So, oh, that's not an x. There we go. So we got 4x, x plus 3, plus 5 equals 0. Okie dokie. So I'm going to expand. 4x squared plus 12x plus 5 equals 0. That's a mark. Yay! Now, let's take a look at this. Is it in ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0 form? Yes, it is. So now I have to choose. Am I going to factor or quadratic? That's going to be the question. So 2 numbers that are going to multiply to give 20 and add to give 12. How about 2 and 10? That works. So it's going to be 4x all over top of 4 with a 2 and a 10. And so that's going to reduce to 2x plus 1 and a 2x plus 5. Let's see if it works. 2x times 2x is 4x squared. Plus 10x plus 2x plus 5. It works. So goodness gracious, I'm glad I learned how to factor. So 2x plus 1, 2x plus 5 equals 0. And that's got to be worth 2 marks. I like that. That's awesome. Sir, I didn't do it that way. I used the quadratic formula. Fine. Full marks. I don't care. Make sure you did it right. I'm not. This is faster. So now either 2x plus 1 equals 0 or 2x plus 5 equals 0. Because what I'm looking at here is the 0 principle. I've got 2 things that multiply together to give 0. Awesome. So either x equals negative 1/2 or x equals negative 5 over 2. And those are 2 marks. So this is a 5-mark question. Now, if you did use the quadratic formula, that's great. But make sure that you got it down to these 2 numbers, please. Don't leave it in a form that doesn't have those numbers. And if you've changed these to decimals, you still get full marks because these decimals terminate. These are still exact. I'm fine with that, not a problem. Okay? All right, so mark that up, do your best on it, and let me know. Let me know. Let's do the next one. Okay, the next one is 6x squared plus 15x equals 3x minus 15. Boom, there it is. All right, so, hey, nothing's changed. It's the same game in town. We got to do this. That's what we want, and I want the a to be greater than 0. So I'm going to leave him there. So it's going to be 6x squared plus 15x. I'm going to bring that guy over. Negative 3x, bring that guy over. Positive 15, and that leaves me with a 0. That's a good thing. So it's going to be 6x squared plus 8x plus 15. Is that right? No, that's not right. That's a 12. 12x plus 15 equals 0. Now look at, I showed you this in class. I'm going to common factor. You don't have to. You don't have to. No, you don't. You do not have to common factor. Everything will be fine. You will not lose a mark. But look what happens when I do common factor. If I now divide both sides by 3, zero divided by 3 is still 0. And I get a much easier question to work with, smaller numbers. So I'm going to work with this guy. But it's no problem if you worked with this guy. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. They're both the same. So the question is, am I going to factor? Or am I going to use the quadratic formula? Well, I'm looking for two numbers that multiply to give 10 and add to give 4. Well, 10 is 1 and 10. 2 and 5. It doesn't add to give 4. But notice up here, if I needed to do that, I got to do two numbers that multiply to give 90 and add to give 12. I've got more work to do. It's going to take longer. That's why I'm going to use this one. All right, so what's next? Quadratic formula. I think we said factoring wasn't going to work. So x equals negative b plus or minus b squared negative 4ac square root over top of 2a. Hey, a is going to be 2, b is going to be 4, c is going to be 5. We're going to get negative 4 plus or minus 16 minus 4 times 2 times 5. Hey, I noticed something. Do you notice something? This is a pretty big number. That's going to be 40. I'm going to get 16 minus 40. That's going to be a negative under that square root. That's going to be complex roots. So 16 minus 40. That seems kind of hard. I better use my calculator. Negative 24. Okay, so we better stop for a second. I want 2 marks for this stuff. I'll give you 1 for getting the quadratic formula, and I'll give you 1 for getting it down to, forgot my 4, to negative 4 plus or minus square root negative 24 over 4. So there's 2 marks there. 1 at the beginning, 1 at the end. Unfortunately, nothing for the middle part. Okay, so now what? Now, this is exciting. Aren't you excited? I'm excited. Negative 4 plus or minus. I'm going to take the negative out. It comes out as an I. That's worth a mark. 24 is 6 times 4. So I'm going to take the 4 out as a 2. That's worth a mark. And I think your final mark should be worth taking a 2 out and reducing, leaving you with a final mark of negative 2, my final answer of negative 2 plus or minus I root 6 over 2. And that's an exact answer, and that's how that needs to be left. And so there's 1, 2, 3 marks for that section. So there was this section. Oh, there was this section. And there was this section. So let's see how many marks we've got. Oh, did I mark the top? I think we should give a mark for moving everything and making it equal to 0. So to be honest with you, whether you common factored or not, that whole thing's only worth 1 mark. So whether you common factored or not, just common factoring makes everything else easier. So I've got 1 mark here. So all of this is 1 mark. 2 marks here, that's 3, plus another 3 marks. So we're looking at 6 marks for that question. Mark it up. Do your best. Be honest. I'm going to go over it. Mark it properly. Just because you have the wrong numbers doesn't mean it's wrong. Did you do the process correctly with the wrong numbers? Okay, last question. Thank goodness. 2x squared equals 8x. Convert, math. Boom, chakalaka. All right, now, this is the one that made everybody upset because all of you guys use quadratic formula. That's a mark. Get it equal to 0. That's a mark. Always equal to, bingo, that's a mark. It's in this form. ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. That's at least a mark, maybe more. And make sure that a is greater than 0. Makes your life easy. So, can you factor it? Or do you want to use the quadratic formula? Most of you are going to use a quadratic formula where a equals 2, b equals -8, and c equals 0. Not me. Nuh-uh. I'm going to common factor. Look at me go. Look. I've got 2 things that multiply to give 0. That means either 2x equals 0 or x minus 4 equals 0. So 2x divided by 2, 0 divided by 2, x equals 0. X equals 4. That's a right answer. That's a right answer. I'm going to give you 2 if you factored it. Yeah, why not? I'll give you 2 for that. That's a 5-mark question. If you use the quadratic formula, it went on a little bit longer. Let's take a look at what that would have looked like for you. You would have had x equals -b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac over 2a. That's a mark. A equals 2, b equals -8, c equals 0. Let's see what you get. You would have got x equals 8 plus or minus 64 minus 4 times 2 times 0 over top of 2 times 2. Now see this? See this part? That whole thing is going to go to 0. That's going to leave us with, hold on, my phone's ringing. Hold on. It's my wife. Just a minute. Let me finish this. So it's going to be x equals 8 plus or minus square root 64 over 4. That's a good thing. That's worth a second mark. So we've got a mark there and a mark there. And then notice what's going to happen. You're going to have to get x equals 8 plus or minus square root of 64 is 8. So now you've got 16 over 4. You're going to have to get the answer of 4. And you're going to have 0 over 4, which is an answer of 0. There you go, kids. Mark it up, do your best, and I will be back with you. I want this tomorrow, so bring it in.